99 million years ago, during the Cenomanian stage, was a rare time for the great families of marine reptiles to be found together. The seas were bustling with ichthyosaurs, pliosaurs, polycotalids, elasmosaurs, and the newly appeared mosasaurs. Mosasaurs came from humble beginnings, belonging to the squamate family, which had not had much of a presence for over 100 million years. Their bodies were small and slender like their ancestors, only 1 to 2 meters in length and weighing less than 10 kilograms. Faced with ichthyosaurs and pliosaurs, giants that weighed many tons, they could only survive in the margins, living a precarious life. But 94 million years ago, at the boundary of the Cenomanian and Turonian stages, a cataclysmic event that would change the dynasty of the seas suddenly occurred. Underwater volcanoes around the world began to erupt one after another. This led to the warming of the seawater, as well as its acidification and oxygen depletion. Although marine reptiles did not need to breathe in the sea, as the food chain collapsed link by link, these enormous animals could no longer find sufficient food. The ichthyosaurs were the first to disappear, and the diversity of elasmosaurs was also greatly reduced. But the mosasaurs, at the bottom of the social ladder, managed to survive the famine by being frugal with their food. They seized the opportunity, quickly filling the ecological niches left behind by other marine reptiles. By the late Turonian, 90 million years ago, with the last wave of volcanic eruptions, the ocean overlords, the pliosaurs, also went completely extinct, and the moment the pliosaurs vanished was the moment our protagonist was born. In the waters near Mexico, the first Tylosaurus appeared. This imposing name signaled that it would soon inherit the domain of the pliosaurs, but the early Tylosaurus was quite small, with a length of just over 4 meters. Never mind comparing it to shark. Even within the mosasaur family, there was the 5-meter-long Jaguarosaurus at the time. The Tylosaurus complained to the heavens, "My name is so mighty, why am I so small? The creator must have made a mistake." The creator explained, "Start as a frog. Evolve by swallowing. No more complaining, now go and eat." Here, we need to explain the skill set of the Tylosaurus. Mosasaurus hoffmanni and Tylosaurus are the two most famous stars of the mosasaur family, but what exactly is the difference between them? Many viewers may not be clear on this. Actually, one of Tylosaurus's unique skills was swallowing its prey whole. Many studies today suggest that the closest living relatives of mosasaurs are likely snake, rather than monitor lizards, and as one of the earliest mosasaurs, Tylosaurus still retained a snake-like method of swallowing. Its skull joints were somewhat loose and flexible, allowing it to swallow larger prey, but it could not withstand the pressures of breaking down larger prey like a crocodile can. At the same time, its conical teeth were suited for gripping and dispatching prey, but had poor cutting ability. This was also a good match for swallowing prey whole. In contrast, the skull of Mosasaurus hoffmanni was more robust and compact, with a stronger bite force, and its teeth were better suited for tearing prey apart, but it could not swallow prey whole like Tylosaurus. Another of Tylosaurus's special skills was its ramming snout. Viewed from above, its upper jaw was like an arrowhead or the bow of a ship, with a hard, toothless projection at the tip. This was the sturdiest spear in the sea, especially suited for ramming attacks. In fact, the Latin name for Tylosaurus means knob lizard. The knob refers to that protruding part of the upper jaw. But I have to say, the name knob lizard is really unappealing. It sounds like a medical condition, relying on swallowing prey whole, and its ramming snout. Its two signature moves. Tylosaurus leveled up by taking on all challengers. Its size continuously increased, and it successfully survived into the next age, the coniation. The coniation stage was the era when mosasaurs began to flourish. In many places, they had become the most common vertebrates found in the fossil record, more successful than other marine reptiles. At this time, Earth's sea level was at a historical high. North America was divided by the western interior seaway into eastern and western land masses. This seaway was the primary habitat of the Tylosaurus. The Tylosaurus here was named Tylosaurus nepialicus. It had already grown to 7 meters long and 1 ton in weight, becoming the largest species among mosasaurs. However, Tylosaurus nepialicus still was not strong enough to dominate the region. At that time, the world boss of the oceans was Cretoxorina. It was found all over the world, but was most common in North America's western interior seaway. It was 8 meters long, with a robust build, and weighed nearly 5 tons, making it one of the largest sharks of its time. Its appearance was similar to the great white shark, and it was the apex predator in its ecosystem. Even mosasaurs were its prey. In fact, in North America, fossil evidence of mosasaurs preyed upon by it is often found. It was one of the fastest swimming sharks ever, with a burst speed of up to 70 kilometers per hour. Relying on its incredible mass and speed, the Jinsu shark's kinetic energy during a charge was quite formidable. It was like a cruiser, while the Tylosaurus was like a small sailboat. If you did not get out of the way, a single impact could leave you shattered. Suddenly, a mysterious incantation traveled from the distant future, grow to 30 meters. It turned out to be the paleontologist Cope, beginning his work during the period of the Bone Wars in order to compete with Marsh over who could discover larger and more numerous prehistoric creatures. Cope had once reconstructed Tylosaurus to be 30 meters long. Within the Tylosaurus, power of evolution began to surge. That was the magic of Cope. In predation, self-defense, competing for mates, thermoregulation, lifespan, and many other aspects, a larger body size often gives an animal a greater advantage. Therefore, many animal families show an evolutionary trend of increasing body size. This is known as Cope's rule. In the early evolution of Tylosaurus, this pattern was especially evident. As time went on, the genus's body size steadily increased. Time moves into the Centonian stage. Tylosaurus nipialicus had reached 8.5 meters in length and 1.8 tons in weight, and a new, similarly sized species had evolved. Tylosaurus puriger. Seeing that Tylosaurus was no longer smaller than the sharks in terms of length, other mosasaurs seemed to see a hope for a comeback. Cleidists fawned over it, saying, excellent. Our savior has arrived. The mosasaurs have grown strong. The sharks won't dare to bully us anymore. Tylosaurus puriger said, we must defeat the sharks at any cost. Cleidastes nodded. At any cost. So the Tylosaurus turned and consumed the Cleidastes. How can I have the strength to deal with sharks if I do not eat well? For the rise of the Mosasaur Empire, for the greater good of our kind, you should make a little sacrifice. The fossil record indicates that Tylosaurus was a generalist predator that ate everything. As long as it was prey it could swallow, it would put it in its mouth, like a true opportunist, not even sparing its own kind. Evidence from stomach contents and bite marks includes Cleidastes, Platecarpus, and Plioplatcarpus, and other mosaurs like Halosaurus. There were also dinosaurs, plesiosaurs, sea birds, bony fish, sharks, squid, ammonites, and even sea turtles. It seems Tylosaurus truly lived by the philosophy. Start as a fraught, evolve by swallowing. After consuming the Cleidastes, Tylosaurus leveled up again, and successfully entered the next stage. The companion, Tylosaurus puriger, gradually grew to 13 meters in length, and its weight reached 6.7 tons. It completely surpassed Cretoxerina in size. Since its peak in the Coniacian, Cretoxerina's size and territory began to decline year by year, until it completely vanished during the companion. Usually, people attribute its decline to the rise of the Tylosaurus. However, the clever Tylosaurus had been developing cautiously all along and did not really make an effort to confront Cretoxerina. One study found that for this shark, there is little evidence of it being displaced through competition with other animals. Its decline was due to climate, sea level, and other changing environmental factors. In fact, competitive displacement is usually more apparent among species with small habitat. For a world boss like Cretoxerina, this principle does not really apply. However, in the western interior seaway, the distributions of Cretoxerina and Tylosaurus puriger show a clear inverse relationship, meaning that as the former declined, the latter took over a lot of territory. Tylos was always engaged in internal conflicts, and yet, somehow, it won the war against the sharks. Praises for it mysteriously began to spread through the sea. Tylosaurus is so great. It led the mosasaurs to defeat the sharks. The Tylosaurus made its magnificent name a reality. It is the true king of the sea. Actually, if we look back at history, it is not the first or second time sharks have been overthrown. The natural balance of species on Earth is just this unfair. When land animals return to the ocean, they are certainly no match for sharks at first, but they always manage to claim the final victory. Just like the ichthyosaurs of the past and the orcas of today, a familiar story plays out again and again over hundreds of millions of years. Perhaps this is just the fate of the sharks. With the collapse of Cretoxerina's global dominion, the Tylosaurina subfamily also extended its reach to all corners of the world. The Tylosaurus genus ruled the Atlantic, from the Tethys Sea to the western interior seaway of North America, and this subfamily's main representative in the Pacific was the genus Tannuosaurus, from Japan to New Zealand to Antarctica. Its fossils have been discovered. Tannuosaurus. This name does not sound nearly as imposing as Tylosaurus, and its body size was also a notch smaller than Tylosaurus. The largest individual found so far is only 9.5 meters long. Additionally, their teeth were relatively straight, with less curvature than those of Tylosaurus. In the later Maastrichtian seas of the south, a close relative of Tannuosaura, Caicophylu, also appeared. It could grow up to 10 meters long and possessed diverse Heterodont teeth. What goes up must come down, and a full cup is easy to spill after reaching its peak. Tylosaurus also entered a long period of decline. Around 70 to 80 million years ago, during the Campanian, North America's tectonic plate triggered the Laramide orogeny. It continuously uplifted the land, eventually forming today's Rocky Mountains. The western interior seaway thus became narrower and narrower, and the local Tylosaurus species also became smaller and smaller. From the 13-meter-long Tylosaurus puriger, it shrank to the 12-meter-long Tylosaurus pembinensis, and then to the 9-meter-long Tylosaurus saskatchewanensis. By the time we reach 70 million years ago, in the Maastrichtian age, as the seaway's connection was cut off by a southern land bridge, the Tylosaurus within the seaway completely disappeared. It was previously thought that Tylosaurus did not manage to survive into the Maastrichtian stage, but later phylogenetic analysis found that the famous Haenosaurus of the Maastrichtian was actually nested within the Tylosaurus genus. For the sake of monophily, it should be renamed as a species of Tylosaurus bernardi. Tylosaurus bernardi was the type species of Haenosaurus with a length of 12.2 meters, living in the Atlantic waters near Belgium. Its Sea King title now seemed undeserved, because Mosasaurus hoffmanni was the largest predator in the area. Its length could exceed 13 meters, and it was also a generalist predator like Tylosaurus. But Tylosaurus was no pushover. It put its fine tradition of internal conflict to good use, and had a confrontation with Mosasaurus hoffmanni. A juvenile Mosasaurus hoffmanni skull was unearthed locally, which had been damaged by ramming from another animal, and the only culprit capable of this was the Tylosaurus bernardi, with its ramming snout. Including Tylosaurus bernardi, many Tylosaurus skeletons show signs of avascular necrosis. This is an occupational hazard caused by frequent deep diving. Since Mosasaurus hoffmanni only hunted in the well-lit surface layers of the ocean, the Tylosaurus wanted to avoid competition. It could also venture into the deep sea. The diversity of the Mosasaurida family reached its peak in the Maastrichtian stage. Their evolution showed more and more fantastic adaptations. But the Tylosaurina subfamily became increasingly rare. Their decline was likely related to the specialization of other Mosasaur families. These specialized mosasaurs, in their specific fields, had an advantage over generalist predators. For example, the long snout and conical teeth of Plotosaurus were able to catch particularly agile fish. The globular teeth of Globidans were suited for crushing shells and ammonites. The star-shaped teeth of Prognathodon were possibly specialized for dealing with armored animals like lobsters. The blade-like teeth of Cenodons, although not suited for gripping slippery targets, had excellent cutting ability, giving it an advantage in its diet. In this new situation, the old king, Tylosaurus, did not bow to the times for survival and honor. It unleashed a final burst of evolutionary potential, completing a specialized transformation. The biggest drawback of swallowing prey whole is the inability to consume prey that is too large. To increase its predation ceiling, the teeth of Tylosaurus evolved to have more developed cutting edges. This reflects a shift from a gripping bite to a cutting one. Even large prey that could not be swallowed in one go, it could cut into smaller pieces to ingest. This new species is the final Tylosaurus, the Moroccan Tylosaurus. Fragments from multiple individuals have been found, ranging in length from 8 to 12 meters. Generally speaking, the Tylosaurina subfamily preferred cooler environments, mainly distributed in higher latitude regions. But this Tylosaurus was an exception, making its home in the warm waters of Morocco. In the last million years of the Mesozoic era, the seas of Morocco, as a center of highly productive upwelling, enjoyed the world's highest diversity of mosasaurs. There were 5 species of large predatory mosasaurs alone. The animals of that time called them the 5 Great Powers. The tooth morphology of the 5 Great Powers varied greatly, partitioning different ecological niches among themselves. The 11-meter-long Garagensis and the 9.5-meter-long Thalassodontan atrox possessed dumb-shaped teeth suitable for crushing armor, tending to act as turtle crackers. The 13-meter-plus Mosasaurus hoffmanni had robust, hooked teeth and was a generalist predator of the ocean surface. The 8.5-meter-long Prognathodon and the 12-meter Tylosaurus had teeth with well-developed cutting edges and were skilled at dismembering large, unarmored vertebrates, just as the old Tylosaurus was plotting how to overcome Mosasaurus hoffmanni. An era-ending catastrophe quietly approached. The mosasaurs rose to prominence in the window of the Cenomanian-Turonian extinction, igniting the light of the squamates. But they were all born in the wrong era. The time left for the mosasaurs was too short. From the moment they grew large, the countdown to the Chicxulub impact was ticking away second by second. 66 million years ago, the countdown finally reached zero. Like an unfinished symphony, The Mosaur dynasty came to an abrupt end at its climax. They met their end before they could evolve into a more fish-like form. Their appearance forever frozen in the majestic sea serpent form. The legend of the Tylosaurus dissipated into the vast ocean. Today, not a single squamate remembers the ramming snout that sank to the bottom of the sea, patiently waiting for some squamate to pick it up once more. Your support is the motivation for my creations. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.